All right, let's have a day, shall we? Welcome in to 104.5 The Zone. Lucas Panzica back there making a go. Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News Sentinel going to be here in just about 10 minutes from now. Talk some Vols. Big weekend in the SEC, certainly in the state of Tennessee, as we went through yesterday. Your phone calls are welcome at any point. 615-737-1045 is the number. 615-737-1045. So, Tennessee gets the win over Florida. Discussed it at length. But you're looking around now at the SEC. Georgia struggling over the weekend against an opponent that should really not give them many problems, as did Kentucky. Alabama, showed a little, an early ebb with the Texas game, and then resoundingly handles business against a woebegone Vanderbilt team. So where does that kind of put for lack of a better term, we're out of list season, but where does that put the Vols in the power rankings, dare I say, of SEC teams? Because I don't know, bud. All of a sudden, I'm looking around. I'm saying you might have the third best team in the SEC and the best conference in college football. And maybe the gap is not that distant between what you're seeing, what you're capable of, and what you're seeing from the other two. Now, I think there's a million different questions. I'm not alleging that Tennessee can legitimately compete at this stage with Georgia and Alabama when it comes to college football playoff and national championship aspirations. The recruiting is not there yet. There's a lot of different things that have to continue to be done. But in today's SEC, you're looking at the 8th-ranked Vols and thinking, okay, I feel pretty good about where everything's stacked up. Because A&M is not good and still Arkansas loses to them. A&M is not good and still manages to beat a Miami team that was ranked, but also was not very good. Certainly the MTSU Blue Raiders handling business against that particular organization. I don't know where else to kind of identify a better team in the SEC. And it's not really any kind of bias. It's just by nature of the results in the early going. And provided that Hendon Hooker continue to play at this kind of level, to where the discussion around him is Heisman Trophy candidate legitimately beyond the top 3 who are going to receive the bulk of the attention and likely the bulk of the voting. It's C.J. Stroud and basically everybody else at this point, including Bryce Young, who is the defending Heisman Trophy winner. But I think for Tennessee, let's start there. What comes next? They shake the Florida Hex, and you feel pretty good about it. They almost blow the big fourth quarter lead, but guess what? They didn't. So now you get the bye. You have the Gators off your back. You're feeling loose. You got an early kickoff in Death Valley, which is going to take a large part of the LSU crowd out of it. Now they're hoping to get Cedric Tillman back for, if not the LSU game, Alabama at home very soon thereafter. And certainly Hendon Hooker, I think, would benefit from just general time off. Like, the guy's been taking some shots, and certainly for as much as they're using him in the rushing attack, I think it's beneficial. T-Dub 1155 on Zone TV, this one on Twitch, says Buck goes to Neyland once and now is the biggest homer. You think I just go, well, listen, I told everybody that would listen to me on Saturday that my college football allegiance was up for sale. Like, show me a good time. My price is not that high.
I mean, the baseball program already has you hooked with Tony V, and you got the Villains shirt.
Also, I thought he did a great job on College Game Day. I was wildly underwhelmed by the selection of Tony Vitello as the guest picker. That did not do it for me.
Buddy, what you are all over the place. You're out here yesterday saying Cedric Tillman out for the year. He's not. You're saying Tony Vitello as the guest picker. He was not the guest picker. What were you watching?
What was he doing out there on the set then?
He was there at like 9:30 in the morning Eastern time.
I assumed he was going to do the guest picker.
No, I wish he was the guest picker.
Who was the guest picker?
Bianca
You wish he
Belair.
was the guest picker?
I think he would have made a great guest picker.
Worse. So who did they have?
Bianca Belair, the WWE champion. She's a Tennessee former track athlete.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah,
she came out.
They tried for Dolly. Reese Davis said on his podcast that they did try for Dolly. So I respect it. At least they tried.
You think Peyton was there?
I don't know. I didn't see a single shot of Peyton there. There were a ton of former players, a ton of former NFL Pro Bowlers on the sideline. I did not see anything to suggest that Peyton Manning was there.
Which explains why they won.
Right.
The Manning curse out of the building.
I will say I would be careful about saying Texas A&M is not a good football team. They are too talented to say that they are just not a good football team.
They're a poorly coached, talented football team.
Are they underwhelming on offense? Do they need far better quarterback play than what they have? Yes.
Is their best receiver out for the season?
Anaya Smith is out for the season.
Hey, look at that. I got one.
That is a big problem. Yes, there you go. There you go. Maybe you got him confused with Tillman. But Devin Achane's one of the most enjoyable running backs to watch in all of college football. It is one of the best defenses in all of college football, holding Arkansas to 21 points. Right now, Tennessee is the fourth highest ranked team in the SEC, a spot behind Kentucky, who is the number 7 team in the country. They travel to Ole Miss. I agree. I don't think Kentucky has shown enough so far to warrant being the number 7 team in the country after beating Northern Illinois by a possession. They only outscored NIU one time in one quarter, I should say, on Saturday. That's something Vanderbilt was able to do, and they surged back and beat them by a couple of scores a couple weeks ago.
The only quarterback, I think, so far who's done more, I don't want to say damage. It's too early in the season to do legitimate damage to draft. I mean, maybe it's not. We're in week 5 at this point. Tyler Van Dyke at Miami has been kind of a disaster is strong, but they have been, you want to talk about underwhelming. Mario Cristobal is already getting some heat. And there's a pattern of behavior with this. He had Justin Herbert and didn't win anything at Oregon. And people are confused as to why the same situation or a similar situation is happening to Tyler Van Dyke. I think that for Will Levis, he has also kind of done himself a disservice by his performance because he has not been good enough to elevate them substantially.
Will Levis has never put up huge numbers, so I never understood the assumption that he was going to come in and be putting up 300 yards, 4 touchdowns per game. He did that on Saturday, but for the first time.
The assumption, I guess, it's the same kind of assumption that I think people make from year over year. Because you see success in one year, you automatically assume, like in the NFL, your team wins 12 games. Let's just take the Titans. Your team wins 12 games. You come into the next season having Super Bowl expectations, and they start 0-2, and they get blown out 41-7 by the Giants. Like carryover, I think, catches up people a lot in their early season expectations, when in reality, football doesn't really work like that. So I think that Levis, the prognostication was, yeah, if he has a great season, this guy is clearly the first overall pick because he already understands pro-style systems. He is being coached by NFL coaches. His former OC is now the OC for the Rams. His new OC comes from the 49ers staff. Like this guy, it's Kenny Pickett. It's if he does well, this guy can be a first-round pick, potentially, depending on how various scouts view size, because Bryce Young is not a big person. Like what is he, 5? He's 5'11", right?
Yeah, he's 5'10" or 5'11".
He's not, he's slight. It's not like 5'10" and stocky. It's 5'10" and 5'11" and slight. So that factors in at the NFL level. It doesn't matter at this point. We're talking about the SEC. Point being, I think what Tennessee has gives them as good a chance as anybody not named Alabama or Georgia. And A&M is not impressive to me. Arkansas is, but certainly had all kind of miscues that led to that A&M loss. And beyond that, like, who else is threatening? That's my thing. Like, who else is legitimately threatening? Brian Harsin could get fired this weekend. You know? The rest, Mississippi State is okay. They're just kind of puttering around. LSU under Brian Kelly. It's year 1, so it's kind of a science experiment. What's going to happen there? As they kind of start to settle into their quarterback situation. Kentucky and Tennessee are the teams that you look at next in line beyond Texas A&M and Arkansas. And really, I don't think that Arkansas, A&M, or Kentucky has done anything as impressive as what Tennessee did on Saturday.
Kentucky definitely does not have a better resume than Tennessee. I mean, you have one ranked win. It was on the road against Florida, who Tennessee just beat on Saturday. You had to kind of escape with that win, just get out of there with the W against Northern Illinois, while Tennessee's been able to handle all of their group of five, just cupcake type opponents. I don't quite understand. And Tennessee have another ranked win on the road at Pittsburgh. So I don't think Kentucky should be ranked ahead of Tennessee. It doesn't matter. We're going into the 5th week of the season.
It matters to you. Don't lie to me. Why are you lying again?
The AP poll doesn't matter right now, okay? Kentucky is going to go to number...
Who are you trying to convince? You trying to convince us? You trying to convince yourself?
Kentucky's going to go to number 14 Ole Miss this Saturday. Tennessee is going to go to LSU. They're going to host Alabama. Everything will shake out and things will fall into the right place here in a few weeks. I'm just saying at this point in time... At this point in time, for the sake
but they don't matter.
This conversation, I would have said Arkansas if they had beaten Texas A&M. I am a big Sam Pittman fan. I love what Arkansas is doing. They couldn't get it done. Chuck says we will see in a few weeks when they meet. I guess talking about Tennessee and Kentucky playing in Neyland Stadium. We will see. But right now, I do think that Tennessee should get the nod there.
615-737-1045. We'll have a couple of calls, and then we'll have Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News Sentinel to talk about these Vols. Andy in Nashville is next.
Good morning, guys. Buck, I really love the way you started off today talking about Tennessee and being where they're at. I'd like to know what you think about this. I believe that there's something to an institutional-based confidence. That show that they put on last Saturday is as big of a show as I remember them putting on in the recent future. I know how fans looked at it, but as far as the kids there go, typically Florida was like, we'll do our best. That's sort of the vibe that you got off. I'm not saying that these kids aren't competitive and trying their best, but I think that there's something that the school itself has done to be able to instill some confidence in the winning ability of these guys, much like you have in Mr. Panzica. What do you think?
Thank you for the call, Andy. Do you think that's a fair assessment? That of what he's saying about us before I talk about Tennessee and institutional confidence and competence?
Well, was it that were homers?
No,
I missed that part. What he said.
I think what, if I understood him correctly, he was alleging that because you are so good at what you do, it has instilled institutional confidence in me. If I understood that correctly.
I completely agree with that.
Okay. Maybe I misheard him.
No, you heard it correctly.
Okay, very good. So I think for me, Danny White clearly has a grasp on what he is doing, and he seems, by all accounts, again, I'm talking about this as an outsider, somebody who's looking at this from 1,000 feet compared to all the other athletic department dysfunction as Georgia Tech fires everybody today in their college football program, it feels like, and a couple of days ago, and associated with their college football program. And we're talking about Brian Harsin. Scott, have you heard what Bruce Feldman and the top athletic college football reporter, not named Bruce, Stuart Mandel.
Oh, yeah. Talk about Brian Harsin?
No, about Scott Frost and how he held a team meeting, or he called for a team meeting before their first game in Dublin that he just didn't show up to. Like these kind of things, like where he was already on thin ice in the middle of it. But I think there's something to that. Certainly, maybe not for the players, but I think for the fan base, yeah, it adds additional juice when you have trust and faith that your organization, your institution, your university, your athletic department are going to be able to deliver on the product that you most associate that brand with. T in Nashville is next.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, I'm just calling to calm down the ridiculousness that is the Tennessee win on the fact that Florida on 2 plays did not even cover the slot. This looked like Josh Dobbs 2.0 from 2016. Tennessee has improved, but Florida had no business coming back in that game. And everybody calm down. They still got at least 3 to 4 people that they could lose to on the schedule. So let's just relax on the greatness that is the creamsicle right now.
The creamsicle. We could talk about that with Adam Sparks coming up next.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
Welcome back. Vols over the Gators on Saturday at Neyland Stadium. Adam Sparks was in the house to cover it. Of the Knoxville News Sentinel, of course, joins us now on 104.5 The Zone. What's up, buddy?
How's it going? Survived that game. Although I don't know if everybody did. If they had to endure that last 2 minutes.
So it was the first time I've been to a Vols game, Adam, and I left when they were up 17 because I thought, yeah, okay, I can try to get my Uber out of here, not get overwhelmed. I've had a great time. They're in control. They got this, right? And I was the only one. And I'm looking around wondering why 102,000 people are staying there until the very, very end, up 17. It's because they didn't believe it was going to happen until they saw it with their own eyes, and it almost didn't.
Yeah, I mean, when Florida scored that last time, I looked over to Eric Kane. I think you guys have had Eric Kane on before.
Mm-hmm.
I looked over to Eric Kane in the press box, and I said, Felipe Franks is warming up, because that was that was the sense that this is about to go terribly wrong. I looked to when Florida got the onside kick. I looked to my left where he's sitting in the press box. I looked at the fans to the left. My wife actually has season tickets to the left of in the end zone, and those more seasoned fans were pale. I looked to my right to the student section. My daughter's in the student section, and those kids over there are doing the Gator chomp after the onside kick was recovered, and it was sort of like it's like the Red Sox in the early 2000s. It's like, oh no, they don't know.
Yeah. They haven't lived this before yet.
They don't know how this ends. And so I guess it made it sweeter, I guess, for Tennessee fans that could sense that was about to go in a terrible place, and it actually didn't.
Well, and I think that's what makes this win and the Pittsburgh win so impressive, is because we've seen the Vols lose that game a million times over. And to survive the Anthony Richardson game, like the one where he looks like a legitimately competent passer, not just an athlete out there playing quarterback and making the offense go in any way, shape, or form, that he looked like that throughout the course of the game, that the coaching staff for Florida continued to think that their offense was their best option against Tennessee. And really, I think it was the best counterpunch that they seemed to have to go for it as often as they did on fourth down. I think that's the kind of thing that builds that confidence to an even greater level.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very rare that you see when a coach comes in that it's the upward trajectory sustains. Usually, you go up a couple notches and you drop down, and you go up and you drop down, then maybe you go up for a while. But with this one, I mean, Tennessee had some issues early last season. I think anybody that saw that team said the second half of the season they were significantly better. Really, if you cut it up into thirds or fourths last year, they were better each month than the previous month. This year, they were a little bit better in close games, and which is why they beat Pitt. They were a little better in close games, which is why they finished off Florida. I mean, for people that are sort of looking at what needs to be fixed on this team, the defense, especially the pass defense, is the obvious thing. But here's the thing, and I'm going to be writing more about the defense this week, sort of looking at into the numbers and why they're struggling and all that. But this is what Tennessee fans are going to have to grasp. This is what your team is going to be under Josh Heupel. You're gonna score 50 against bad teams, and you're gonna score 35 or 40 against good teams, and you're gonna win most of those. You're gonna lose some, but this is how it's always gonna be. Your offense is going to score really fast. You're going to be really excited, and then your defense, a lot of times, is going to give up another score really fast. And get used to it. It's Loyola Marymount basketball from 40 years ago. That's what it is. It's up and down, and just enjoy it.
At Adam Sparks is where you can go to follow him on Twitter to read all the great work that he does at knoxnews.com. Speaking of which, you wrote about Hendon Hooker and Josh Heupel, that they are the quarterback and coach to give Tennessee fans the win that they've just been dying for over Florida to this point. I mean, he accounts for 461, Hooker does, total yards of offense and really didn't play that clean of a game. I guess is that how do you evaluate Hooker at this point so far through these couple of games in this season?
Well, I mean, the obvious question that's kind of stirring around now is he a Heisman candidate? And the knee-jerk reaction is, no, that's Tennessee fans overreacting. This is how things always go. They beat Florida, not a great Florida team, just a solid Florida team, and the quarterback has a great game, and suddenly he's a Heisman candidate. I'm a Heisman voter. If we had to turn in our ballots today, I'd probably have Hendon Hooker somewhere on there. Now, it's not a September award. It's an end-of-the-year award, and I don't think he'll be a finalist at the end of the year. But if you're judging it for what they've done so far, I think Tennessee's the only team in the country with 2 top 25 wins. He's been very good. He leads the SEC, the best conference in the land in total offense. He leads the SEC in passer rating. He's the best thing they've got going right now, and they're a top 10 team. Obviously, I think Georgia and the Alabama games at least will probably derail that him from the Heisman race, probably. But so far, he's done everything that they need him to do, and he should be in the race right now. Whether he stays in it, I don't know if that's going to happen.
What's kind of the sense around the Cedric Tillman situation now that they have the bye before they'll travel to Death Valley and take on LSU?
Well, I mean, I think he's probably better than 50-50 chance of getting back. His press conference with Josh Heupel tomorrow, he'll give us an update as much as he can give us. What I had heard was they were going to try to get him back for LSU, but if not LSU, very probable for Alabama. You know, I mean, you saw in that Ramel Keaton filled in fine. You really look at what they lost 2 of their 3 wide receivers last year, and then they bring in new guys this year, and the offense looks even better. And then they lose Cedric Tillman, and they plug in a serviceable backup in Ramel Keaton, and he was really good. Had the best catch, best play of the game. And so I think the anxiety around what they lose when they lose to Cedric Tillman is sort of dissipated.
And Brew McCoy filling in the way that he did in an expanded role. I mean, what has been the progression for him as he's kind of acclimated to Tennessee, gets through all the eligibility gray area that kind of bogged down before the start of the season, and seems to be really comfortable operating within this system that Josh Heupel calls. Yeah,
I mean, sort of in hindsight, this was probably something that will propel that passing game more, the fact that Tillman was out of this game, because if you look back at the Pitt game, Tillman was targeted like 18 times by Hooker. It was obvious that in tight situations on third down, Hooker was looking at Tillman and looking only at Tillman. And it took a game like this, I think, for him to sort of widen his scope a little bit. And, Brew McCoy is not a guy he's not a burner. Great hands. More than anything, he is a physical receiver, which they need in the SEC. He is a guy that will catch a 4-yard route and turn it into a 7-yard gain. And they've got to have that physical type presence. And I think for what he did the other day, sort of there was some confidence gained in there for Hendon Hooker that he could go to Brew McCoy.
At Adam Sparks is where you follow him on social media to get all your Vols information. So realistically, Adam, I know, one game at a time, and they've got some time off to kind of recuperate a little bit. What do you want to see from them? What should the expectation be of them traveling to LSU? The game is not going to be, it's not going to be crazy Death Valley in a night kickoff, which is kind of surprising, it seems like, to a lot of people. It's 11 a.m., so a lot of the energy that is normally occupying a place like that is not going to be present. What legitimately should be the expectation of them?
Well, I mean, it's a toss-up game. It still is. I think LSU, we don't know quite what they are yet. I think we'll learn a little bit about them in their game against Auburn this week. It's probably going to face a mobile quarterback. We'll see how that goes. I think the difference is that LSU's probably got a little better athletes. I like them better defensively than Florida, maybe. The biggest difference I think that could make a difference in these games is that the receivers are far better at LSU than they were Florida, and so I think you could get into another shootout. I mean, I don't think Tennessee has the personnel to really fix all of its problems in the defensive secondary. They could get incrementally better, which is what they did last year. They just figured out how to plug guys in different places. They tweaked the scheme. And second half of the year, the pass defense was a little better than it was early in the year. I think that's the best case scenario right now. And if you can do that, then, you can go down and beat LSU by a touchdown, be even further into the top 10. And, 9-3 is reasonable and 10-2 is plausible at that point. I think the biggest hurdles right now are the LSU and the Kentucky game.
Thanks for the time, buddy. I appreciate you hanging out this morning.
All right, good to be on. We'll see.
That's Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News Sentinel with us on 104.5 The Zone. So basically a toss-up against LSU. Is that reasonable, do you feel?
Yeah, I think Tennessee, they go in as favorites. It was 4.5-point favorites, I think, last I checked.
I'll double check.
When that line first came out. For a lot of people, the expectation will be to go down and win for a program in year one of a new head coach. LSU is much more talented than Florida, I think. They have more dangerous receivers on the outside without question and a better defense, like Adam said. And you're on the road. Death Valley is still Death Valley. It's not Death Valley at night, but Death Valley at 11 a.m. is still a dangerous road environment in the SEC. If Tennessee beats LSU, if they're able to outscore the Tigers on the road, which is very plausible, then I think 10-2 is going to be the record rattling around every Tennessee fan's mind. Because the expectation will be to beat Kentucky all season long, regardless of what happens down the stretch here. It's those Alabama and Georgia games that Tennessee fans, even the most optimistic of Tennessee fans, understand are going to be a very hard test to go out there and win. But if they're able to beat LSU, 10-2 is very much in play for this team.
The visual of ghostly white veteran Vols fans next to a student section doing a gator chomp after the onside kick is recovered by Florida is laugh out loud funny.
Yeah, the student section is always interesting because it's this mixture of kids that have grown up and watched Tennessee football every single year of their lives since they were infants. So they understand. Mm-hmm. And then there's the ones that maybe that moved from California or New Jersey.
They're just here for the party, baby.
They're just here for the party. And so there's the ones that are in the student section looking around like, what are you doing? Stop it. Stop it. You don't know.
It cracked me up watching the Jumbotron because I don't pay attention to the Jumbotron during Titans games really. But looking at like every time the camera would pan to the student section, just some dude lifting up his shirt with a power tee shaved into his chest hair and his happy trail.
It was a great environment. I mean, people stuck around too. I think like 15 minutes after the game was over, the Checker Kneeland was still.
No, for sure. I'm telling you, it was the most impressive part of all of it. Like for me, is that everybody was still there waiting to make sure that the thing was done before the celebration got started. Now, some downtime before the trip to Tiger Stadium, to Death Valley, and we will see what results there are to have. We'll also talk more about college football later this week because there are some good SEC games to keep us busy in the interim.
So the bye week comes at a great time, even though it's early. It's after 4 games, but every single year in recent memory, Tennessee has had this 4-game stretch where it's Florida, and then it's a game like at LSU, and then it's Alabama, and then it's Georgia in consecutive weeks. You don't really have that this year. It's the bye week after the Florida game, an emotional, charged-up win at home. You're a little banged up. You can get Tillman healthy. Jabari Small had a shoulder. He played on Saturday. Gives him a chance to kind of get re-energized going into LSU. So you play LSU, you play Alabama, and then there's a little reprieve. I believe that UT Martin game. UT Martin is the week after the Bama game. Georgia is very late in the season. Typically, it's right around the middle part. So Tennessee does not have that 4-week gauntlet that Tennessee fans have gotten so used to just eating 2 to 3 to 4 losses in, largely against SEC West opponents in past years. So that's an interesting caveat to the schedule here as the bye week comes down, where they can sort of gear up for a couple of tough weeks, one on the road, one at home against Alabama, and then reset again a little bit to charge up for that slate that'll include Mizzou and South Carolina and Kentucky and then eventually Georgia.
615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. Winners and losers of the sports weekend is next. The tennis. Welcome back on this Tuesday. 10:45 is typically when we do the winners and losers of the sports weekend, but I got a better winner than any of them. How about the MTSU Blue Raiders, baby? Handling business. 45-31 over the ranked Miami Hurricanes. We'll spare Coach Rick Stockstill the circus music that typically comes associated with this segment and just welcome him into the show. Coach, thanks for stopping by and congratulations to you and your program.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me on and giving me a chance to talk about these guys. But it was a special day, obviously, and just really appreciative of you giving me some airtime here.
Man, you got to be appreciative of nothing. Anytime Coach Stockstill is welcome on these airwaves, regardless of the show. I'm certain I can speak for everybody from that standpoint. But for the purposes of the kids, Coach, I mean, you start the season the way that you do with that loss to James Madison. You rattle off 3 straight wins, including this game against Miami in Coral Gables. It has to be rewarding to kind of see the work, the commitment, the drive, because it's easy. It would seem to me, or seem to outside consumers of this stuff, kind of easy to lose track of things after such a lopsided start to the year. But it seems like you guys have really rebounded in a fantastic fashion.
Yeah, I appreciate you, and you're right. And I told the guys after that game that the season's a marathon; it's not a sprint. We got to get better. We got to go to work and, ignore all the noise. Everybody's saying bad stuff about us. Just ignore it and put your head down and just work. And that's what they've done. And, same thing, going down there. I just talked about the toughness part of it, how tough we were going to have to play physically and mentally, to have a chance to win that game. And that's what those guys did. So, we're a young team. We only have 9 seniors, but we're a very mature team. And I think we've got good leadership on our team, and the guys have a good mindset, and they're very focused.
Now, I understand the concept of, ignoring the negativity about conversations around, whomever the opponent might be. But, Coach, I gotta think that there wasn't a lot of people giving the Blue Raiders a big chance to win at Miami against a ranked team. There has to be some relishing in that after the fact, no?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. If you're 26-point underdogs, that means not many people are. But, no, so I'm happy that these guys, because what they did, and I told them Sunday when we got back that, there can only be one first time, and you're the first time or first team that ever beat a ranked team. And so you'll be remembered and talked about always as the first time. So be proud of what you accomplished, but also be mature enough to know that, just because we scored 45 at Miami doesn't mean we're going to score, 2 points against San Antonio. You don't get to carry anything over with you. So we got to be mature enough to handle the pats on the back and get ready to play a really good team this week. But no, I'm really happy for our guys that have been able to experience this and created a memory that they'll carry with them for a lifetime.
MTSU Coach Rick Stockstill, our guest here on 104.5 The Zone. I think a lot of people lose sight of, myself included sometimes, just sitting through press conferences. I think a lot of people lose sight of the idea that it is such a literal week-to-week result. When you get a season, you start to put a couple of games together. I think people try to make assessments off all, 3 or 4, however many games you've played in a season, rather than just looking at that individual day and that individual performance. I'm sure that football coaches don't lose sight of that, but I feel like a lot of people who consume football do.
You have to, and you've been around it, Buck, forever, and you've followed pro teams, college teams. Every team, any football team, really any sporting team, is different from week to week. We're not going to be the same team this week as we were against Miami just because we're down a couple guys from injuries. When the Titans roll out there, they were different from the week before, when they played the Bills, so because you got injuries and especially the college level, they got so much other stuff, distractions going on in their life, that it's a week to week deal, and you just try to. It's cliche-ish, coach talk, whatever, but you just try to perform the best you can and get better for this week, and then you start all over again.
MTSU has UTSA at home this Friday, 6:30 p.m. the kickoff. It's a blackout game for those of you who are attending, and for all the reasons to attend and to support a program who's coming off a spectacular win. In addition to all of the other great things that you guys have going, Coach, I know Kevin Byard is getting his jersey retired at the stadium this Friday. I know you guys have to really. I know how much he means to you and you mean to him. But to be able to be a part of that for him, coming off such great momentum, has to be particularly special.
Yeah, for both of us, both he and us as a football team. I mean, he just played his 100th game, got a close to a game sealing interception there, and so I'm really proud for him and happy for him, and I hope people will come out and support our team, watch the game, but also come out and support him because, he was a great player here. He is a great player for the Titans, and as much as anything, he's represented this program and the Titan organization in this Middle Tennessee area, exactly like you'd want somebody to represent it. So I'm super proud and excited for him. And I thought about this the other day, that how many guys get their jersey retired before they go in the Hall of Fame?
Not many.
Not many. I don't know because he's not eligible yet to go in the Hall of Fame because you got to be out 10 years here. So to me, that's a pretty cool deal, pretty special.
Coach Rick Stockstill of MTSU has been kind enough to give us some of his time this morning. Coach, again, congratulations to you. Congratulations to the kids and the staff. I know everybody's really excited about it and excited for you. Appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, appreciate you. Thanks for having me on. Have a great rest of your week.
You as well. That's Coach Rick Stockstill. MTSU UTSA Friday in Murfreesboro, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. The kickoff, 3HL is hanging out there on Friday to get you going ahead of time. I'm sure Slay is tailgating heavily for that one.
Did you hear Coach Stock after the game on Saturday?
Well, I saw some of the. I didn't hear him. I read some of the comments. Do you have audio of Coach Stockstill? Why didn't you want to play this for him when he was here with us?
Fantastic win. Extremely proud. Happy for our players. It's always fun to do stuff that nobody thinks you can do. And coming down here, 26-point dogs, and kicking their butt like we did, because it was a butt kicking. There was no fluke to this. And just really proud of our team, the toughness that we played with. We were the tougher team here tonight.
Hell yeah, Rick. Let's go.
You know what he said on 3HL yesterday?
Did he double down?
He said, I don't want to misrepresent him, but
Careful.
He said they gave us $1.5 million. We gave them 1.6 yards per carry.
No way. That's incredible.
So it sounds like he's come down.
Well, that's the Florida State in him too,
right.
man.
But it sounds like he's turned his attention now to UTSA the weekend ahead, and this game's kind of behind him. But he was still, still flying high.
Try to rile him up a little bit with the negativity in the media and all these things. But yeah, you want to hear a little bit of that.
Love that.
Let's be honest.
Absolutely love, because it was a.
So you're suggesting that we got a more tranquil version of Rick Stockstill.
I think so. But which is a good thing. You don't want to be riding the high of the Miami win when you're going into UTSA. You got to win at home on Friday.
I mean, buddy, not if you're Rick Stockstill, but we're trying to do a radio show here. Speak for yourself. What are you talking about? No, we're very happy for Coach Stock and for that program. 615-737-1045. We'll do some winners and losers of the sports weekend. First, Chris in Nashville. What's up, Chris?
Hey, what's up now? Feels good to get online and talk to you. Congratulations to MTSU, man, and Rick Stock. I was at that MTSU game a week ago.
Yes, sir.
And man, they really got something going down there. Like the atmosphere, like the stadium, and man, just hope they continue success. about this weekend, man. Great weekend for football for Tennessee fans, man. It's a big game getting over that Florida hump. To the call earlier when the guy called in and said, "Oh man, this week Tennessee can still lose 3 more games." Yeah, they can, but once they beat Florida, that's like opening up a whole nother level for Tennessee. We almost got bit by that Tennessee curse, that Florida curse at the end of that game that we just had Saturday. But you can see just even out without Cedric Tillman playing, how the bag-ups played. Him diving out for that catch. That was just awesome. And the atmosphere was just awesome. Watch that game, and I got the chance to go to the Tennessee game with the Titans and Rams.
Thank you for the call, Chris. Music means you have exceeded the 60-second limit that we have for the calls, but we do appreciate it. I think there's a lot of good things to talk about there, and we could certainly do that coming up next with winners and losers of the sports weekend. 615-737-1045 if you would like to nominate a few. I know we've got a few of our own.
It is 11:02. Good morning from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. Week 3 in the NFL ended with a Monday Night Football matchup in the NFC East last night. The Cowboys winning at the New York Giants 23-16 with Cooper Rush at quarterback, handing the Giants their first loss as the Cowboys improve to 2-1. Around the league, ESPN's Adam Schefter reported Tuesday that Patriots quarterback Mac Jones is likely to miss multiple games with a severe high ankle sprain. Veteran Brian Hoyer, the primary backup. Patriots visit the Packers in Week 4. Titans made some moves yesterday, signing defensive lineman Mario Edwards from the Jags practice squad to the active roster and waiving outside linebacker Derek Tuska. And the Nashville Predators dropped the puck on the preseason yesterday at Bridgestone Arena, splitting a doubleheader against the Florida Panthers, falling in overtime and then winning 4-3. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second down on a Tuesday. Welcome in. Welcome back. If you've been hanging out with us so far, we're happy to have you. FM radio, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. 104.5 The Zone app, or if you're catching it via podcast after the fact, we're still happy to have you later on, too. Jump in right now, though, if you want, 615-737-1045, because the winners and losers of the sports weekend are slightly delayed, but they are still upon us. It's real simple. Tell us who won the sports weekend or lost the sports weekend, who claimed great victory, either literally or metaphorically speaking, or who flatly embarrassed themselves. Give me the circus music now. Trapdoors, they're all over the place. Titans almost fell through one by nature of Terrence Mitchell falling down every time Mac Hollins was in the area. There he went. Tough scene. Still on the roster, though, Terrence Mitchell. A lot of people surprised by that yesterday.
Winner of the weekend?
Hey, loser of the weekend, Caleb Farley, because if Terrence Mitchell's still on that roster, what's that say? Whew. We'll get to that later. 615-737-1045. Winners, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, we're going to get to overreactions later in the show. We're not going to do that quite yet. But the Jags went to Los Angeles and not just won the game of the Chargers. They beat the holy hell out of Los Angeles. Now, Justin Herbert is dealing with God knows what at this point, getting shot up with something before the game to make sure that he was active and able to play.
Does Justin Herbert play safety?
No, he
does not, because the Jags hung 38 on the Chargers. Justin Herbert ain't got nothing to do with that.
Well, it has something to do with the fact that they couldn't keep pace. But yeah, Rashawn Slater is, I'll get to the Chargers here in just a second. But winners of the weekend, the 2-1 Jacksonville Jaguars. How about that? Making me look smart this offseason. 615-737-1045. Lucas, who won the sports weekend?
My winner of the weekend is Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts. He has commandeered one of the 2 3-0 teams in the NFL right now. Ironically enough, the other one is his former Alabama teammate Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. Jalen Hurts, in the last 2 games, has completed 73% of his passes for 673 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 2 rushing scores in the last 2 games alone. Jalen Hurts is off to an electric start to the season. He's in one of the best situations of any quarterback in the NFL as far as the weapons around him. He is spreading the football around to his former Alabama teammate Devontae Smith, one of his best friends, A.J. Brown, both putting up big numbers, and Dallas Goedert, Miles Sanders in the run game. The Eagles are rolling right now, and after watching that display in the NFC East last night, they are without a doubt the team to beat in that division at the moment.
At the moment, and heading into week 4, that certainly seems to be the case. The NFC East last night, bleh. I saw the headline this morning, defense lifts Cowboys over Giants for second straight victory. No, just terrible quarterback play. Kind of keeping that thing in check. Do some losers here in just a second, but let's go to the phone, 615-737-1045. Joey is in Clarksville with his winner and loser. Hello, Joey.
What's up, Buck? So my winners for this weekend would be the Nashville Sound.
Yes.
They're one game away from playing for the AAA championship. And my loser is Missouri. Come on now. You've been playing football for a while. You've got to hold on to the ball when crossing the goal line.
Eli Drinkwitz looked so disheveled after that game in the pictures and videos from the post-game press conference. The Nashville Sounds, though, absolutely deserve their credit. Did you see the post-game celebration in the locker room with the coaching staff and the players and the champagne everywhere? It looked really, really cool. Those guys, minor league baseball can feel sometimes unrewarding, for lack of a better term, but damned if that doesn't make them feel good, and it is a feel-good story, certainly here locally. So congratulations to the Nashville Sounds on their success so far. Who is your loser of the sports weekend?
I'm going to echo that with the caller saying Missouri being the loser of the weekend. For me, it's anybody that watched that football game. Auburn with a 17-14 overtime win against Mizzou. I mean, for more context, Auburn hits the field goal on their first possession of OT, and then the Mizzou player diving for the end zone on their first possession of overtime, fumbles out the back of it. The touchback seals the win for Auburn. But Bruce Feldman had this report on, I believe it was Fox's Big Noon show on Saturday, where he went on there and he said that he believes Brian Harsin at Auburn could be relieved of his duties as soon as Sunday with a loss to Missouri. So I guess my loser of the weekend is the Auburn program, despite the fact that they got the win and they're 3-1. Because if you're going to get fired for losing to this Missouri team, you're already fired. Yeah. I never, ever understand why we see this from college football programs, from administrators, whoever's pulling the strings at Auburn, that is going to decide whether or not you fire a guy that weekend. Clearly, you've already decided you want to fire that guy.
You made up your mind.
And you're just waiting for that loss to prompt you to fire him, to make the move. Okay, well, we'll wait to see for when he loses to LSU. All right, when he gets blown out by Georgia, we'll fire him. Just fire him. Just get it done. Rip the Band-Aid off. It's over. Start looking for your next head coach. It baffles me that we continue to see this year in and year out from different college football programs, like a win over Mizzou makes any difference in Brian Harsin's tenure at Auburn. By the way, this would have made a good SEC stat of the day. Take Bigsby, the Auburn running back. He had 62 yards after contact in that game against Missouri, but he had 44 rush yards on the day.
Oh, that's brutal.
That is the state of the Auburn offensive
really
line.
Bad.
It's over with Brian Harsin. They don't have an identity. He never had much of a chance to begin with. His AD that hired him, that stuck his neck out for him, is not there. It's over. Just rip the Band-Aid off, Auburn.
Does it feel like the analysis of football, even by the people responsible for making these decisions, is getting dumber? Like, just, he won, so okay, we'll keep him for the time being.
It's just like...
It was like that with Mike Mularkey a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
He beat the Jags. Okay, we'll still fire him later, but, you know, at least we're playing in the wild card round against the Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, he beat the Chiefs? Well, he still might get fired, but, you know, let's see what they do against the Patriots. It's just ridiculous.
Just know when it's over. It's so clearly over.
Know when the journey is at an end. Loser of the sports weekend. Jags won, Chargers lost. Not just lost the game, literally, but Rashawn Slater, their stud left tackle, is out for the season. Joey Bosa, their best pass rusher, is week to week with a groin injury. I had somebody send me a question on the A to Z Sports Instagram today while I was doing my Titans Q&A. And they said, why are we the most injured team in football? And I'm looking around at like the Chargers, the Bucks. Tom Brady's out there trying to beat Aaron Rodgers with Scotty Miller and who's my guy from Buffalo, the slot receiver, who just screams Tampa, Cole Beasley.
Oh, Cole Beasley, yeah.
Cole Beasley is literally the physical embodiment of what I imagine Tampa Bay to be.
Yeah, funny you say that because Ian Rappaport saying that Brian Dable has told reporters Sterling Shepard ACL out for the season.
Yeah, everybody is falling apart in week 3. Like it's football. Everybody seems to be the most injured team, but in reality, everybody's losing their best players because this is how these things go. 615-737-1045. Who are the winners and losers of the sports weekend? Tyler Dial says COVID Beasley. Pretty good. What's up, John?
What's up, Buck? So the winner of the sports week has got to be Memphis and Penny Hardaway.
Yes.
As the news just dropped that they got away with it. They told the NCAA to you know what, and they won for it. 3 years probation and a $5,000 fine. Memphis fans repeatedly told kept saying they didn't really do anything. They didn't really do anything. Everybody said they're going to hammer him, and they didn't. The losers of the sports weekend's got to be the NCAA. They had said Wiseman was cleared, and then UK's athletic director, who is on the committee, got involved, and they reopened it. And now then he's not, and now they look foolish.
It's so spot on. This tweet from Jeff Goodman about an hour before the show started today. The hearing panel concluded that Penny Hardaway's, quote, philanthropic involvement in the Memphis community began prior to becoming an athletics booster in 2008 and before he was hired by Memphis as its head coach in 2018. The NCAA is again toothless. Winners Memphis, losers the NCAA.
And this is all from what they did to land James Wiseman, who moved from Nashville to Memphis, played for Penny in high school, and then eventually in college.
More of your phone calls coming up next. We will also get to the biggest overreactions from the first month of the NFL season. September, one more game will be played in September, and the rest will begin anew on October the 1st on Sunday when this Week 4 slate officially gets underway. But there are some pretty wild assessments being made of some particularly interesting football teams. We'll tell you what those are coming up next.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
Welcome back. NFL Week 3, some interesting results, particularly if you were a AFC South fan this weekend. 3-0 over the AFC West, just like we all had it predicted. A lot of different games coming down to, again, one score, but the overreactions out of Week 3 have been surprising to me. Not just because, I think, listen, everybody's got to make content in our business, okay? Like it is incumbent upon us to find things to talk about as we get you from game to game, basically. I've told you a million times. I'm basically just doing an infomercial for 5 days a week until I can get you to football. That's how it goes. That's fine. That's the role that we have to play. But, I think you can do it creatively and you can come up with intellectual ways to analyze and assess and discuss and have engaging conversations, or you can say ridiculous things on television that'll go viral and also basically have a bigger effect than any kind of nuanced analysis that would take precedent in the aftermath.
Who are you calling out here?
A lot of people. A lot of people. Too many to name. But I will. So Cam Wolf is a buddy of mine at the NFL Network, okay? And Cam does a fantastic job. Cam's really good at television. Cam is getting better at television, it would seem, because this thing that he said, I would argue, is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard my friend say about a team 3 weeks into the NFL season. This was Cam Wolf on the NFL Network.
How about Trevor Lawrence getting his first road win as a Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback in his 10th start? The only other quarterback who has done that after 9 straight road losses, Peyton Manning. And don't look now, these aren't Urban Meyer's Jags. These are Doug Peterson's Jags. 2-1, leading the AFC South so far. And look, Jags, the last time they've led the division this late in the season, 2017, that Saxonville team. So I'm not saying book your playoff tickets. Doesn't hurt to peek.
But you're saying it.
This late in the season? Cam, what are you talking about? It's week 4.
It's like 75 degrees outside.
We literally just put a bow on that wretched mess that was the NFC East Monday night game to conclude week 3. This late in the season? And the comparisons about first road win after 10 starts, Trevor Lawrence and Peyton Manning? I mean, which, by the way, I think the Jags look fun. Like, the defense is clearly doing what it was constructed to do. Josh Allen, their version of Josh Allen, is an absolute menace. And Trayvon Walker, while he's got a lot of rawness to him, clearly has the tools to make that front better. And Lawrence, turns out, with just responsible coaching, is going to be a really good NFL player, much to the chagrin of Titans fans, Colts fans, and Texans fans. But I get it. There are things to discuss there with Jacksonville. But how often have we gotten a month into an NFL season, turned around and said, "Oh, that just didn't matter at all." What happened in September? It's just almost completely irrelevant. Now, I think the things that have the greatest impact are the divisional games that you play early on. It's not lost on me that so many of the Colts AFC South games come so early in the first half of their schedule, and the Titans are playing their first AFC South game on the first day of October. Those kind of things do matter as you're trying to jockey for position. You can put yourself behind the 8 ball very quickly, or rather the schedule makers can do it for you, depending on how these things are front-loaded and back-loaded. But that's just among some of the stuff I've seen. And by the way, good for Jacksonville. Like, they deserve some love. They are doing things well down there. They clearly they have a clear and concise plan that they are implementing. To this point, it has been successful more often than not. So, overreaction to say the last time they were it's just the phrase "this late in the season."
Yeah.
This late in the season is where he lost me. And I'm like, all right, bud. You mean, surely that's not the last time they've been over 500 heading into October, 2-1? God, what a low bar, though.
What was the stat that Doug Peterson just moved into like 5th all time for Jags head coaches and wins?
Well, Urban Meyer is tied for fifth.
Right, with 2.
With 2.
Yeah.
Fifth all time. All time. Think about that. Mike Vrabel's winning at a better rate than anybody not named Jack Pardee of the Houston Oilers. It's Urban Meyer tied for fifth with 2 wins and a kicker that he kicked. And they still can't get that right. 615-737-1045. What are the biggest overreactions you've heard from the NFL coming out of the first month that is almost concluded? Terrence in Nashville is next.
I was going to say, just kind of going back to the winners and losers. I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. The AFC South, the supposedly worst division in football, the AFC South.
Now, wait, Terrence, you're not alleging that there's a worse division in football than the AFC South, are you?
Oh, no. I mean, this is what everyone else says. Everyone else says that AFC South is the worst division in football, beat the supposedly quote-unquote best division in football, the AFC West, which is a shocker.
Yes. No, I absolutely agree. Thank you for the call. Yeah, but there's the AFC South still the worst division. I mean, nobody's disputing that today, right? Like, just because Chris Jones said something nasty to Matt Ryan and it allowed an unsportsmanlike penalty to put them in position to take control of that game after they failed on 4th and 1 with Jonathan Taylor. Like, come on. Travis Kelce just dropped a touchdown pass. Just dropped it. The Chiefs left like 17 points on the board. I went back and watched that game last night. Let's not get nuts about the best division, the alleged worst division in football beating the best division in football. I still think the balance of power lies in favor of the AFC West.
Did you watch last night's Monday Night Football matchup?
Yeah, that was tough.
You did, and you were not tied to a couch and forced to keep your eyes open.
No.
You watched it willingly.
It was like this 11-10 result between the Broncos and Niners, man, where I am telling myself actively.
No, that was on Sunday.
No, I understand. It's the same thing. I'm telling you that I had to actively say to myself at like 9:45, I really need to turn off this football game. There is no good reason for me to still be watching this slop other than the NFL has me hooked like some kind of drug addict. And yeah, I mean, I work in football for a living, but I don't have to watch 11-10 Broncos Niners and Cooper Rush and Daniel Jones kind of defensive struggle their way into anything but a fantasy football win for me over John Glennon. Like, that's the only reason that I had any investment, because the Cowboys kept kicking field goals on the Giants defense and Johnny had the Giants defense. That's the only investment I had. Several times I had to say to myself, you need an intervention, go to bed. Just go to bed.
So does this count as an overreaction? Jerry Jones on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas saying that Cooper Rush has the makeup of a top quarterback in this league.
Oh, Christ. Come on.
3-0 as a starter.
Jerry, stop it. Actually, you know what? No, I take it back. Jerry Jones should say whatever the hell he wants at any given point, because nobody else will in ownership. I wish that the Titans had that kind of an interesting owner, just for the sake of quotes and ridiculousness that we could use on sports talk radio. Turns out it makes for a not competitive football product more often than not. But hey, let Jerry have a press conference after a big Monday night win. The Giants are like 0-6 in their last 6 Monday Night Football games. It's really bad. And looking at a couple of different overreactions in the league, the amount of overreaction about Tua specifically, as opposed to the Dolphins as a whole, I don't know why it bothers me the way that it does, that people are not getting smarter about how they watch football. It's mind-numbingly irritating to me, because immediately the conversation around the Dolphins becomes Tua. I don't care about Tua. Tua is a fine part and an ancillary piece in a much larger puzzle. And they're the AFC's only remaining undefeated, and they beat the Bills, the overwhelming Bills. They beat the team that nobody is supposed to be able to beat, the team that just smoked the Titans 41-7. The Dolphins did that with mighty Tua. And instead of talking about all the ways that they're making Tua better with what surrounds him now, it becomes about Tua. He's a proven winner. He's a proven leader. Look at the Bills. He's comforting. He's holding Josh Allen in his arms, comforting him after the game. Do you see that? It's like Josh Allen looking teary-eyed.
I saw
Tua
that.
like hugging him.
But who's saying Tua? He's a proven winner. He's a proven leader.
I have seen that all over sports
Really?
television this week. All over
Because
sports
I've
television.
mostly just seen people impressed with what Tua's done through 3 weeks, and for good reason.
Maybe it's because while we're on the air, First Take is the first thing that I see on the television in the morning. Maybe that's influencing my position. But also, by the way, do you know what Josh Allen's record is in one-score games?
No, enlighten me.
0-6.
Really? Over.
Wow. That, and I'm listen, he threw the ball 60 times in oppressive Miami humidity. Like, it physically just looked like the two teams were worn down afterwards, and the thing that finally took Josh Allen out at the finish line was just how miserable of conditions Miami in September is to play in. But that is a number that you'll hear in arbitrary analysis leading up to a game. There's a lot of numbers that you'll hear in arbitrary analysis about trends and historical records and things like that have no impact on just the next game. But 0-6 in one-score games is pretty damning for a variety of different reasons. I think I would have to go back and look through each individual result, but that's a decent sample size.
I'm trying to figure out how Josh Allen had almost 450 total yards of offense, and the Dolphins held the Bills to 2 touchdowns, I should say. They had 19 points.
615-737-1045. Oh, by the way, speaking of overreactions, we didn't talk about Ken Dorsey. We didn't talk about Ken Dorsey at all. That dude lost his mind. This is the thing I think people don't realize about coaches. No matter how many times people like me say it into a microphone, they're all insane people. They are all chemically imbalanced. Nobody should take a loss, even if it is to a divisional opponent, that harshly to where you are throwing things in the booth around like some kind of petulant child. You are a grown man. Like Ken Dorsey, when has Ken Dorsey ever done anything like going back to Miami? When has Ken Dorsey ever been anybody who's like overly emotive? I saw that dude pacing the sidelines of Highmark Stadium when we were in Buffalo before the game. He's just chilling, just walking around casually, waving hi to some people. Some cops said, "Hey, good luck today, coach." He's just a low-key, chill guy. And then they lose by 1 score to the Miami Dolphins, and he's throwing things all over the place in the booth. It was hilarious. That's a legit Week 3 overreaction. Phil in Portland is next.
Hey, Bucky, thank you for taking my call, man. I love the show, man. You know, me and you go back like Kick the Can and all them other games and stuff.
Listen, Phil, it's as long as a relationship as I've had with anybody, you and me at this point. So go ahead.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Hey, listen, I don't know, Buck, and I know you'll straighten me out if I'm wrong. I can depend on that, but I just think we're deceiving ourselves with the Titans. Everybody's running around here all happy and jolly because we got the win over the Raiders, but that's not really saying nothing, man. I think the next good team's going to come in here and just show us what Buffalo showed us. You got a lot of holes in this. You got a lot of stuff you got to prepare, and I don't know that we need to be running around here arrogant online because I've been watching a lot of Titans fans talking about how they're going to whoop the Colts. At this point, I don't think we are in a position to say we're going to whoop.
Oh, Phil got zapped at the end. I don't know what happened to his phone line. But his larger point is taken. I mean, who do you see chest thumping about the Titans yesterday? Or at least anybody, let me say this. Anybody of, well, let me rephrase so I don't sound like a jerk. Anybody of legitimate analytical capability chest thumping about the Titans yesterday. Like, just generally people who watched that game and said, yeah, they're fine. Titans going undefeated down the stretch. They're going to whoop up on the Colts in Indy on Sunday, and on it goes back to the number 1 seed and hosting divisional round playoff games.
And Colts fans wouldn't be in a place to say the same thing, too, vice versa. Like, neither of these franchises are in a spot right now where you can go on the road and be assured that that's going to happen. Most franchises are not.
So, I mean, if Titans fans on the internet, and I understand what Phil in Portland is saying, he's saying, yeah, there's a lot of irrational confidence from a lot of different people that I'm seeing on social media. What else are they supposed to do? Like, they finally got a win on the season. It's not like the coaching staff is celebrating with champagne and champagne after the game after they beat the winless Raiders to send them down 0-3. No, they're doing things like sleeping in the facility to make sure that they get their second half offensive issues figured out. This was Mike Vrabel talking about the difference from first half to second half. We gave you these numbers courtesy of John Glennon on Monday. 57-7 is the scoring margin that the Titans are losing by in the second half of 3 NFL games. This was the head coach yesterday about it.
Well, making sure, we had the turnover, which was, unfortunate. I think some of the gains and the runs that we had, in the first half, probably weren't there, for, whether it's one guy here or pressure. But we had some opportunities. Felt like we could have got the screen going again. We had success with that in the first half. Wasn't able to get Nate out, for obvious reasons. If you watch, how they played him, not allowing him to get to the backer, and the conversions. We had some really cool third down conversions in the first half, and weren't able to get it. 3rd and 1. We didn't get many people blocked on that one. And then just making sure that, we're better in 4 minutes there at the end. I thought the way that we finished the first half was 3 critical points. When you look at defensively getting a stop, stopping the clock, 20-yard return. Caleb Farley did a nice job of getting to the second level. Robert does what we ask every returner to do, is make the first guy miss. Did a fantastic job with that. 21 yards to midfield, 21 seconds, the 2 timeouts. Nick sitting down, catching a contested pass, Ryan being decisive with it, and then getting the extra yards that we needed, and Randy coming through with a big kick. So those were 3 critical points. I think we all just have to, make a few more plays offensively and defensively and special teams in the second half there. We had opportunities in all 3 phases.
So we're going to get back to that later on in the show, because I'm basically going to go drive by drive with you guys in the noon hour to see if we can identify what, if any, trends exist in the Titans' first half offense versus the second half offense. I got a lot of questions also about, did Tim Kelly call the first half offense and did Todd Downing call the second half offense? I will address that later on as well. 615-737-1045. Paul in Nashville.
Hey, Buck. Love your show.
Thank you.
I feel like you know Vrabel pretty well. You guys have a good rapport. I have noticed, or at least I feel like I've noticed, that this year he has a completely different tone in every presser than he has in years past. And to me, he sounds defeated almost. And I don't know if this is I'm making something out of nothing, or if this is something to do with, as long as I'm the coach, AJ's going to be here, and now he's been handed this particular roster, and he just doesn't sound like he has the same swagger, and not to his fault. Like he sounds defeated to me. Am I inserting my own bias into that, or is that real?
Thanks for the call, Paul. Yeah, that's completely unfounded. Mike's bored. Mike's bored at these press conferences. You don't want to talk to us. I'm trying to think of how many days a week Vrabel has to talk to us. Sunday after a game, Monday after a game, players' day off Tuesday, so Mike talks to us on Wednesday. Coordinators on Thursday, but Mike talks to us on Friday. So there are 4 days a week where Mike Vrabel is largely answering the same questions about one game that he's finished or the next game that he's on to. And honestly, there's only so many questions to be asked. Vrabel doesn't, the only time you see signs of life from Mike in a press conference is one, if he's in a bad mood and he wants to take somebody out. And John Glennon asks him for a third time about Zach Cunningham's availability on the roster. And then you get storming off and huffing and puffing. And this is effing ridiculous off the microphone or in a post-game press conference immediately after a win or a loss or he thinks a question of little relevance is being asked, and he'll just kind of take it any way that he wants to. The moments when he rips us are fewer, even if I think people pretty much expect that they occur on a regular basis. But yeah, for the most part, Mike's just kind of sedated in these press conferences. You just got to play better, coach better, move on. I'll talk to you guys on Wednesday. Thanks for covering our team. 615-737-1045. It's Tuesday, so we've got a high school football hero for you. DJ Merriweather of Clarksville Academy will join us coming up next. Welcome back on this Tuesday, 11:45 or thereabouts, 11:47 local time. We do our Tennessee High School Football Hero of the Week. This week, we're happy to welcome DJ Merriweather of Clarksville Academy to the program. The man went crazy in this game against Fayette Academy. It was unbelievable. DJ, I appreciate you stopping by, stud.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
All right, you want to do offense first or you want to do defense? Because Lucas sent me your stat line, and I did a double take this morning.
It's up to you. It doesn't really matter.
Okay, well, let's go offense just because it's in front of me. 255 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns on 11 carries. That is the efficiency on that. That's pretty good. Pretty good, I would say.
Yes, sir.
14 of 19 passing for 185 yards with 3 touchdowns. The rare 7-touchdown single-game performance. What was clicking for you guys on offense on Friday night?
They really spread out the box, so there wasn't really that many people in the box. And Coach Murray giving me the ability to read the defense and having the line block for me as well as they did just made it easy for me to read the open defender and just pull it and run.
So, you're studying tendencies throughout the course of the week of work and you're preparing for certain looks. Did you know that was going to be the approach that they were going to take defensively, that you guys were going to be able to exploit, or did you get the kind of looks that you wanted early on and just said, hey, let's go crazy on this?
Yes, sir. We worked on it the whole week. We knew exactly what they were going to run, and we just picked that overhang defender off.
So on defense, 5 tackles, recovered a fumble in this game. Of course, Clarksville Academy has a game at home against DCA this Friday at 7 p.m. As well. So when you're switching from offense to defense, there's plenty of kids in high school that play both sides of the ball. Certainly when you're performing at that kind of a level, do you have a preference which side of the ball you like better?
Not really. I just love being out there helping my teammates. Whatever it takes to win, I'm willing to do it.
Well, certainly you did as much as humanly possible to make this thing happen. So throughout the course of the season, what have you liked about the way that the team itself, I know this is, we're having an individual conversation, but obviously football is the ultimate team sport. What have you liked about the way that your team has come together through these first couple of weeks?
I love it. I feel like at this point, we're rolling and we're ready to get into district play. I feel really confident in us in our district run that we have coming up. I feel like we can really pull through and make a deep run.
What's the biggest source, I guess, of that confidence going into district play? Is there a particular vibe about this team that you like, about, as you said, the way that you're rolling? Like, what kind of stands out about this group for people who haven't had the chance to watch it yet?
I feel like we're really together right now. I feel like we're like really locked in as a family, and we're just able to do everything if we put our minds to it.
DJ Merriweather of Clarksville Academy has been kind enough to spend some time with us on this Tuesday. DJ, we really appreciate the time, continued health and success, and a big game coming up against DCA this Friday at home. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
DJ Merriweather with us on 104.5 The Zone. Did you play high school football?
I played high school football until my sophomore year of high school.
So 1 year.
Yes.
I actually heard a portion of this conversation about your head being too big to fit in a helmet.
Way too big.
Way too big?
Way too disproportionate when I was 15 years old.
Yeah, everybody's got that one part of their body that's like disproportionate when you're growing up. Like I felt like mine was the ears for the longest time. Like I felt just forever that I had these giant satellite ears. Everybody's got something different, but yeah. A big head in high school football.
We were also terrible. Where freshmen and JV would go 0-8, 0-8, and then varsity would go 2-10. My first 2 years, 2-8. I guess my first 2 years of high school. I don't want to be a part of this. So
safe to say Lucas Panziga was not a two-way player in high school.
No, not quite. Not quite. So I stuck to soccer where we would go to the state championship and be competitive. Football got good eventually.
It really is impressive what he was able to do in this game, just to be that kind of active. That's exhausting. It's just the sheer stamina that it requires to play that much on both sides of the ball. I mean, I guess when you're doing it that efficiently and you're just ripping off giant touchdown runs on a bunch of these 11 carries that he had. Maybe it makes it a little easier. I don't know. But Clarksville Academy 4-2 to start the season. Where is the 104.5 The Zone high school game of the week this Friday?
We're going to Murfreesboro this week. Blackman, the Blaze hosting the Oakland Patriots. Blackman has not lost since week 1 against Brentwood. Oakland undefeated. Oakland under Kevin Creasy has never lost to a Middle Tennessee opponent. Never, ever.
That's wild.
Not once. Kevin Creasy has won, I believe it is now 101 games as the head coach of the Oakland Patriots. He has only ever lost to Hoover out of Alabama, Whitehaven out of Memphis, and Maryville, the powerhouse, out of East Tennessee.
He's been doing this forever. Like how many years did you say?
I believe it is, I don't want to misspeak. I think it's year 9 or 10 for Coach Creasy at Oakland.
That's
yeah, I'll have to go back and make sure that's right. I just know that he's won over 100 games. You can count on one hand the amount of games that he's lost. He has not lost since the 2019 state championship game. I believe that's correct, the 2019 state championship game, because they're back-to-back defending state champs.
Coverage begins at 6:45 and through your Friday evening into the night with all of the high school football results.
Yeah, kickoff at 7 at Blackman. The Blaze are fun, though, and they've got a couple of guys that are going to be playing big-time college football next year, one of the most exciting offenses in the entire state. They don't kick it off very much. Onside kicks on almost every single kickoff for the Blackman Blaze. That's what they've been doing throughout the course of the season.
Love that.
They have not attempted a field goal yet this season. Chandler Tygard, the head coach at Blackman, was a student assistant at Tennessee under Kiffin and under Derek Dooley. That's where he kind of got his coaching start. And then he went and coached in Alabama for a while. Now he's in his 4th year, I believe, at Blackman. And it's a big game for them. It's going to be a rocking crowd at Blackman anytime Oakland comes to town. Big Murfreesboro matchup. Really looking forward to it.
Okay, so you can hear Lucas and Will Bowling on the call. Then get to more of your phone calls in the noon hour. We're going to go drive by drive with this Titans second half offense, not second-hand offense, although some of you may feel that way as well. We'll do that coming up next. We'll get your reaction to a variety of different things. I'm Buck Rising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
It is 12 o'clock. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. Tennessee Titans made some roster moves on Monday, signing veteran defensive lineman Mario Edwards from the Jaguars practice squad to the active roster. They also waived Derek Tuska, the outside linebacker, former Pittsburgh Steeler that they picked up couple of weeks ago after the injury to Harold Landry. Some news for Nashville Soccer Club as they come out of the international break. CEO Ian Ayer breaking the news last night that Nashville will return to the Eastern Conference next season after flipping to the Western Conference here in 2022. NSC will return to action on Sunday to finish out the regular season. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Third hour is upon us. Welcome in, welcome back. If you've been hanging out, you're driving around in your car for lunch, happy to have you as a part of however long we're a part of your day, no matter where it is that you consume us. Jump in if you like. 615-737-1045 is the number. 615-737-1045 is how you get involved. Nashville SC returning to the Eastern Conference, so they started in East, went to West, back to East?
They started in the West, and then when COVID came down, they structured the scheduling so there was less travel for teams, and they moved to the East. And then when things got back to normal this season, they went to the West. They will go back to the East next year.
All right.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
So at least
I threw my hands up in the air when you said that, and you just kind of shrugged at me and kept reading your update.
At least, 3 out of the 4 teams, pro teams in Tennessee will no longer be Western Conference teams. Now it's just 2 out of the 4.
Oh, good.
With the Preds and the Grizzlies.
I hate the logistics of things like that. Anyway, irrelevant to the conversation. The conversation that we're going to have is about the problem with the Titans and their second half offense. Because as they look for ways to grow and improve, and certainly did make improvements in Sunday's game, although they did very, very much put that in jeopardy with the way that they performed in the second half, both offensively and defensively. As we kind of figure out how to diagnose these things, there's a couple different places you have to start. I think that on the whole, the offensive line and the way that they were able to move the ball was the most important thing out of anything that occurred in that game on offense. Not Derrick, not Robert Woods, not continued above-average play from Ryan Tannehill. Offensive line. Because they're keeping him, honestly, pretty clean right now. Now, they're doing it in different ways, and it's not just straight-up 5-man protections. Like, it's not that at all. They're having to help. They're having to chip. They're having to find ways to take the pressure off the quarterback to allow the quarterback to have as efficient and a performance as humanly possible. But there's that big old number again. 57-7. It's the scoring margin for teams against the Titans in the second half. It's very bizarre. They have started each opening drive of the year with a touchdown in all 3 of these games. They're 3 for 3. Sunday, 3 straight touchdown drives to start the game. Where is the Todd Downing criticism then? Again, I'm not absolving the coaching staff of the problems, but I am hoping that at some point more people will start to acknowledge that the problems go deeper than just the coaching staff. What it devolved into very quickly is, without any grounding in fact or reality whatsoever, Tim Kelly must have called the first half of offense for the Titans and Todd Downing the second. Because how could they go from 24 points and the only team scoring as many points in a half as the Titans did in that early 9-game slate was the Eagles, who look like Super Bowl favorites, certainly in the NFC right now. How could they go from 24 points in one half to 0 in the second and almost losing the game? The answer is layered. The answer is complicated. Mike Vrabel's explanation of this question is something that we played earlier in the show, but I think it is worth hearing again. Here is the Titans head coach on the second half struggles.
Well, making sure, we had the turnover, which was, unfortunate. I think some of the gains and the runs that we had, in the first half, probably weren't there, for, whether it's one guy here or pressure. But we had some opportunities. Felt like we could have got the screen going again. We had success with that in the first half. Wasn't able to get Nate out, for obvious reasons. If you watch, how they played him, not allowing him to get to the backer, and the conversions. We had some really cool third down conversions in the first half, and weren't able to get it. 3rd and 1. We didn't get many people blocked on that one. And then just making sure that, we're better in 4 minutes there at the end. I thought the way that we finished the first half was 3 critical points. When you look at defensively, getting a stop, stopping the clock, 20-yard return. Caleb Farley did a nice job of getting to the second level. Robert does what we ask every returner to do, is make the first guy miss. He did a fantastic job with that. 21 yards to midfield, 21 seconds, the 2 timeouts. Nick sitting down, catching a contested pass, Ryan being decisive with it, and then getting the extra yards that we needed, and Randy coming through with a big kick. So those were 3 critical points. I think we all just have to, make a few more plays offensively and defensively and in special teams in the second half there. We had opportunities in all 3 phases.
And he's right. So I've got the drive chart and ball possession portion of my game book in front of me. The Raiders had 9 offensive drives to the Titans' 10 offensive drives. The 10th drive for the Titans, really just the kneel down to end the game after they got the ball back. You look at the way that the Titans started this game. Touchdown, 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 punt, field goal, end of half. They come back. The interception between Tannehill and Robert Woods that was caused by confusion, that obviously is independent of anything that the coaching staff was doing to call the plays. There's the turnover on downs. I think the 3rd and 1 is going to continue to be questioned because of the loss of 3 yards. They went for it on 4th and 4. Ryan Tannehill throws the pass behind Treylon Burks. He had Burks open. He missed Burks. Burks tried to adjust to it in a weird way. Burks dropped the football. Turnover on downs. Punt, end of game. This is the place where my biggest, where I'll actually look at this and say, okay, fair criticism of the offense in these moments. Because I think they got super conservative once they had the lead and they just started playing to hang on to it. And they do that. That's what they are. That's how they operate. That's not new. It's just, it leads you to these close results. And it gives you stress if you are a Titans fan and you're trying to understand how does it go from, 24-10 at the half to 24-22 and a missed extra point, a batted extra point pass away from that game being played in overtime and ending in a different result than your first win of the season.
2-point conversion pass.
Yes, I probably said that poorly. I think that we try too much to turn it into a conversation about all 3 games like they're all created equal. They're simply not. Now, there's clearly an execution problem in the second half versus the first. I think it's compounded when you play a conservative style of football and you also make the mistakes that would put your opponent in position to succeed. These are the kind of things that I think you can identify and say, this is more than just kinks that they got to work out. This is a legitimate problem for them. This is a legitimate problem, and they're going to have to adapt to the situation. How they adapt to the situation remains to be seen. But they've got a variety of different options at their disposal, which is the best possible news. And we'll get into the thing that helped open up the rest of the passing game for them here in just a minute. But first to the phone, 615-737-1045. Tim is in Nashville up next.
Hey, Buck, I want to ask you a question.
Ask me a question then, Tim.
Yes, sir. And the question I want to ask you is, I'm going to take you away from what you're talking about for a minute, and I'm going to ask you this here. Do you believe, this is a two-part question, do you believe that getting rid of A.J. Brown on the Titans was a mistake? And that mistake happening by the ownership, do you believe that it's going to keep them possibility from reaching the Super Bowl? I'm going to hang up here.
Thanks for the call, Tim. Yes, I believe it was a mistake to let A.J. Brown get out of the building. I think he made it incredibly difficult. We've talked about that a million times. I think that he didn't want to be here. I think it's their job to make him want to be here because he's their best possible resource at not named Jeff Simmons. And I include Derrick Henry in that conversation. I don't think it had anything to do with the ownership. I think it was a falling apart in the negotiations between AJ, his representation, and John Robinson as the general manager. Again, there are different parts of the blame to be assigned among those three parties. But I don't think the ownership group had anything to do with it. Amy largely lets John and Mike do what it is they do instead of holding press conferences after the Cowboys beat the Giants on Monday Night Football the way that Jerry does. You know what I'm saying? We'll get into this unlikely thing that opened up the passing game for the Titans on Sunday. More of your phone calls as well. We're going to really make you think about something because it turns out you've got a multifaceted weapon that is just starting to be unlocked. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
Tannehill screens Henry on the right side. He juggles it, then picks it up. 25-30, 35-40, and he's tackled at the 45-yard line. Making the stop there is Hobbs. In some ways, Coach Mack, his juggling of the ball gave it time for the play to set up.
Well, it absolutely did, and it discombobbled the Raiders a little bit too. They were not quite in sync with the screen game where you got to have a force over the top, cat force, and run and hit. They got out of sync.
Gain of 23 for Derrick Henry on his first reception of the year.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
Derrick Henry would go on to have several more receptions in the Titans' 24-22 victory over the Vegas Raiders. That, of course, Mike Keith and Coach Dave McGinnis on the call of Titans Radio. Derrick Henry's 23-yard reception that he, as you heard in the call, bobbled a little bit. You heard Mike Vrabel address it. Yeah, we want to catch that a little cleaner, but it ended up allowing Derrick time to let the play set up in front of him. And the Raiders were looking around like, do we go for him? Do we go for the quarterback? What's happening here? And allowed Derrick Henry to make a couple of nice moves. Some really nice, I thought, ability to cut off that right foot and make plays upfield. I think Mike described it as getting guys going again, or getting Derrick. It was cool to see Derrick get going again that way, which he showed a lot of mobility to be able to do. So the screen game is something that obviously opens up a lot for your offense and gets Derrick Henry involved. I'm going to explain why Derrick Henry's presence is the thing that helps set up the day that the passing offense had in just a moment. But let's get to Steve in Portland first. Hello, Steve.
Hey, Buck. Hey, two questions. I guess both of them complaints. I don't see any adjustments made in their offense at halftime. They come out and they are dead in the water. They've showed that 3 games running. They never make adjustments. Number two, when do they come up with blocking schemes that allow Derrick Henry to get to at least the line of scrimmage rather than get hit 3 yards in the backfield because he's not being blocked for?
Well, I appreciate the call, Steve. I think the second part of it is just, the blocking in front of him is not sufficient. It's not scheme, it's execution, it's players. And they're not a good offensive line, even as I thought they played very, very well on Sunday against the Raiders. There's stuff there that is problematic and that Derrick's just going to have to make hay, for lack of a better term. The first part, I really struggle with this. Am I in reruns if I talk about adjustments again? Because I feel like I just did that all yesterday, and it's not Steve's fault. Not everybody listened to every second of the radio show that we do. But I have such a hard time with they don't make any adjustments, or the other team made adjustments and they didn't, when you have no idea what the conversations are like in the locker room. I don't have any idea, by the way, either. So I can't tell you quantifiably what adjustments are or not being made. I can tell you that the way that they came out was that they play that way when they have a lead because they're built to. And that's kind of what Derrick is. Derrick is meant to be the ultimate closer who can also at any point rip off a 60-yard run. So I am more inclined to, your complaint is more valid on the back end than I think on the front. For no other reason than nobody has quantifiable evidence of a lack of adjustments without thorough tape study. Now, what I will do for you, Steve, is I will ask Greg Cosell this question tomorrow when we do the install, because I emailed Greg this morning at 4:30 in the morning, because that was when I was up doing things. I said, listen, there has been criticisms in the same way that the first down predictability was a thing when we talked last week. Criticisms about the second half offense. I'd like you to take a look. Tell me what you see. We'll put it on the podcast, so you can look forward to that tomorrow on the install with Greg Cosell. Here is the thing about Derrick Henry, though, because I'm glad that the conversation still revolves around him. His lack of natural ability to catch the football is not an ideal circumstance, because you would like him to be as versatile as humanly possible, but it does create a lot of opportunities where that dude's just not covered. He's just not covered in the passing game. Now, screen passes, obviously, like, defenses are going to be wary or aware of that because you get him out in space. You do this with any playmaker. You get him out in space, he can make a move on you, and he can run you over. He can build up steam. He can get downhill. Like, that's the best usage of Derrick Henry in the passing game.
But it feels like the play does have to develop in a very certain way for him to be effective in the passing game.
Yes.
Unlike guys like McCaffrey, where it's like, just give him the football.
No, it is a very, very, they have to put Derrick in a position to succeed, and that is not easy to do as a receiver. It's just not. And that's fine. Like, Derrick is allowed to be incredible at what he does and also have some kind of limitation that they have to kind of coach around. All players do. So instead of, a bobbled pass or a bobbled reception by Derrick leading to something worse, like, a fumble, or if it bounced off his hands, an interception, it allowed the play to set up in front of him. Then Derrick turns around, gets upfield, and makes a move, because that's what Derrick is capable of doing at a high level. Now, what allowed them to get in rhythm early, though, went beyond the screen game, although they did try to throw 2 screens on that first 12-play drive. Just by nature of him as the safety valve, using him in the way that you would almost use a tight end, where he's just running that quick stop route in the middle of the field. You run a bunch of route concepts around him. All of a sudden, Derrick's just sitting there, and nobody's covering Derrick. Derrick's not catching the ball. Why would they throw it to Derrick Henry? It allowed them to keep the momentum going on a couple of these different drives where it was critical. So when we talked about last week, what's plan B? What's the counterpunch? This is not necessarily the answer that you may have defaulted to, but it's one that worked for them in this game. They're not going to get away with it every week. They're going to have to make adjustments. They're going to have to play better in other phases. But the marriage of just a quarterback in rhythm with safety valve passes, just checkdowns that he's able to hit. I don't care. You can make fun of quarterbacks who hit checkdowns. I think they're efficient. I think that's how you continue to move the ball. I think that's how you play modern offense, with the passing game as much a part of your ability to control the possession, to control the clock, as the running game is. Just more efficient. 615-737-1045. Chris in Lebanon is next.
Hey, Buck. Listen, I was listening to the game. I wasn't watching the game, and it was like 6 or 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and there was going to be a change possession. The Titans were punting to the Raiders. And at the end of the play, there was a personal foul by one of the Raiders. I can't give you any names because, like I said, I was listening. How come when that next drive set up for the Raiders, it wasn't 1st and 25 instead of 1st and 10?
That's a good question. I don't recall the specific circumstance, Chris, and I don't want to misspeak without full knowledge of the situation, because by my logic, or by conventional logic, that should have been 1st and 10.
I believe in that instance, it was well after the play when the Raiders had a big gain. So they just moved the spot back 15 yards from the end of the run and made it 1st and 10 from there.
That makes sense. I just wanted to make sure that we were giving him an accurate assessment.
Yeah, it was after the play. It was after the play happened. The Raiders already had their gain. They had their first down. So they just moved the spot back 15 yards and went 1st and 10.
615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. I think, Derrick, we had a caller yesterday talk about like the attitude that Derrick has about, he's really level-headed after wins or losses. He's the same guy, and then they made a comparison to Lewan and how different Lewan's personality is versus Derrick Henry's personality. And everybody has personal preferences, certainly. I think, though, for Derrick and his perspective on what he's able to contribute is just as many ways as possible that he can. His career high in receptions is 6 in Seattle in week 2. In this game, he ended up having 5 receptions as a part of the passing attack for a total of this is the incorrect game book that I'm looking at. So, that's the first half statistics. He had 3 catches in the first half. He had 2 catches in the second half. So 5 total throughout the course of this
yards.
game for 58 yards, 6 total targets, though, with Derrick Henry in the area. And the screen pass does help the numbers because he averaged 11.6 yards per reception, which is really, really damn good. Robert Woods, well, there was a couple of players who had decent receptions. And I think Dontrell Hilliard being back as a part of that, because he made an incredible play to make some guys miss on a long third down conversion where he ended up just taking it and running for 30 yards. I think having him back as a part of the equation also helped as much as it did the offensive line and Derrick playing the way that they did. Those are the kind of things. It's that out of the backfield option. You saw Hassan Haskins and Derrick Henry getting snaps together in the same backfield in this game. You saw obvious passing down situations where Hilliard is the primary, maybe not the primary target, but he is a target who Tannehill trusts and can make a play with the ball in his hands. It is that variety, I think, that makes them interesting and dangerous because they can, once they start implementing more of those looks, that split backfield look that they have, whether it's two running backs in the backfield or a tight end and a running back, then I think they can further expand upon that and run more plays out of the same personnel selections. In fact, this was something that Mike Vrabel talked about yesterday when he met with the Nashville media. This was the Titans head coach.
Well, I think it was what they were trying to do is they were trying to get back to try to stop some of the intermediate, play passes that we've had, that we'd like to have success with. And I thought the best thing that Derrick was available. He got to those spots quickly, and then Ryan was able to find him. Derrick did a nice job of putting the ball away and turning up like we talked about and gaining some valuable yardage.
So that was Mike Vrabel speaking on Derrick Henry as a receiver or as a part of the passing plan or passing game on Sunday against Las Vegas. Rick in Hendersonville is next.
Hey, Buck.
Hey, buddy.
Just wanted to comment on Derrick and the receiving game. I was a high school receiver, I was an end, and I could not catch the football.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just couldn't do it. Well, then I got to looking at the pros and their hand sizes. My hands are like 7 3/4 inches. Derrick's hand size is only 8 3/4 inches. That could be one of the reasons that he just can't catch the ball like other other players can.
Rick, I've never taken that into account. I'm not saying that it doesn't factor in. It is something that is, I don't know if it's, he doesn't look natural. I don't think it's necessarily like a hand size thing. Is Rick in Hendersonville making the allegation that Derrick Henry is running back Kenny Pickett?
I don't even think it's a problem
with the Whopper commercials. I just have these small hands.
I don't even think it's about actually holding on to the football. He's had drops, but it's really about his style of running, right? It's about how he gets downhill. How things open up for him in the run game is not the same how they're able to open up for him in the passing game.
It's a different kind of athleticism, right? It's just a general, it's not fluid. It's clunky. Like, there are plenty of things. You can be a great basketball player and be a terrible wide receiver on a football field, right? Because it's just a different kind of skill set. It's a different kind of movement and vision that it requires, and not everybody is the complete package. Now, I'm not saying that the hand size thing doesn't have anything to do with it. I don't know how big Derrick Henry's hands are. I know that Taywan Taylor had the biggest hands of any human being I've ever seen and could not do anything but body catch the football, and rarely even that. So, like, the big hands thing does not necessarily mean that you are an adept receiver of the football. But it can, this is why they measure things like hand size, but more for quarterbacks and receivers that way, as opposed to running backs. It's just about the motion with which he catches the football. William is in Vegas. Is this the same William from yesterday?
That's correct.
Hi, William.
Hey, your show, the A to Z show this morning, Alston and Zach, opened my eyes to something. There's a disconnect between J-Rob and Vrabel. J-Rob keeps drafting talent, and Vrabel only plays a scheme player guys, so he doesn't rely on talent. So I think J-Rob needs to stop drafting talent and just draft only scheme guys.
You know, I mean, that's not true. Mike Vrabel's playing Roger McCreary. He's both a talented player within and a good scheme fit.
You still need talented players to win. Like, you can say you don't want to have to rely on talent, don't want to win just because you have better players, but you still need talent to win games. I feel like we really just opened up that phrase from Vrabel when he said that and just said Mike Vrabel hates talented football players. Like, that's not true.
NPF is talented.
Derrick Henry's talented.
Jeff Simmons is talented.
Traylon Burks. A.J. Brown was talented.
Christian Fulton is talented.
I feel like we're banging our heads in a wall.
Amani Hooker is talented.
Like, Mike Vrabel does not have a thing against players that are talented at playing football at a professional level.
Ryan Stonehouse wasn't drafted, but he's talented. I mean, what are we doing here? William 0 for 2.
Vrabel kicked the door down J-Rob's office. Like, too much talent.
Stop with the talent.
Enough with the talent.
I can't. The visual of that just made me laugh. Like the mental image of Mike kicking down John Jones, be like, damn you.
You and the talent. What is it with talent with you? See, this guy stinks. I want that guy.
I want that guy.
Like,
you know
Vrabel's
why?
not saying that.
Because he's not going to have an ego. He's going to do what I want. No. Mike Vrabel loved A.J. Brown. Mike Vrabel went on a national radio program with Rich Eisen and said he's not going anywhere as long as I'm the head coach. And you know who traded away the talent? John. Well, A.J. also asked for the trade. But I would be curious to hear the discussion from Austin and Zach. Austin usually texts me during the radio show if he hears something where his name is invoked. That or his ears or what is it? Your nose starts itching when you're being discussed, when you're being talked about?
The ears get hot.
Ears get hot. I thought that was like a different kind of, I thought that was like a nervousness, like embarrassment when your ears get hot.
No, I think that's like when someone's talking about you, right?
Why would your ears get hot when you're embarrassed?
I don't know. Austin just texted me. Said that is Austin Saley says that is a misrepresentation of what we talked about.
Okay. Because like every once in a while that'll happen. Because I do the A to Z primetime show too. So like it's largely the same people, and they'll say, "Well, Austin and Zach said this in the morning," and then they'll expect me to react to something that I may not necessarily have heard on that particular time of day. I think that for the most part, people hear what they want to hear, or the way that William described it, open his eyes to something is quite confusing. So why not let Austin Stanley of A to Z Sports defend himself? Hello, bud.
A complete misrepresentation of the conversation we had this morning.
Yeah.
Completely off base.
That's how it goes.
What we were saying is that based off of Vrabel's comments about Caleb Farley in yesterday's press conference of not necessarily or having players understand the scheme, understanding leverage, their role, their job on specific plays. On a short week after Buffalo, that Vrabel also mentioned several times, we can't go 0-3 in his mind, right? So get me Terrence Mitchell, who's 30 years old, who's played in the NFL for 8 years, to go out there that knows what to do rather than gamble on Caleb Farley having a mental error that blows a play wide open. Like, at least Terrence Mitchell will be in the vicinity of the wide receiver when he gets bodied by Matt Collins. But, he was at least around, right? So that's where Terrence Mitchell is not as talented as Caleb Farley, but he knows what to do. So in a short week, Vrabel could trust him over Caleb Farley in a spot where the Titans were facing 0-3.
But William just told me that you guys opened his eyes this morning. I'm confused. What am I missing?
He's in Vegas, right? Is that time zone is another? Maybe it's too early. His eyes are half open. I don't know what William heard, but it didn't exactly click.
So you're saying the talent of a Caleb Farley with the brain of a Terrence Mitchell.
Oh my God.
That's what we're looking for.
Shut up.
That is your perfect. That's your perfect corner, Lucas.
Oh, Jesus.
It's Terrence Mitchell's brain and Caleb Farley's. That's it.
Austin Stanley, A to Z Sports, is where you can catch him and Zach Bingham weekday mornings from 8 to 9 a.m. and the same network where I do the primetime show. Thank you, bud.
Thanks, guys.
William is in the YouTube chat. He says, that was just my view, not Zach and Austin's.
Okay. Well, then why say that they opened his eyes to something? I'm very confused by the whole interaction.
The perfect corner.
What do you feel like we accomplished there?
Oh, we might have. I don't know. I think we're a net negative there. I'm not sure. We had something good going, too, talking about Derrick Henry and how he's opened up the passing game.
Should that just put it on the tombstone of this radio show whenever it is that we get fired for something that we've done? I think we were a net negative there. You know what?
Them's the breaks.
Got a break.
Cowboys hurry it up. Pass, a spinning grab by Hendershot. And then up and over Dane Belton and picking up 10 and making the Indiana Hoosiers football program proud.
It doesn't take much, does it? That's not fair.
That's not okay, Captain
sorry.
Bruin over there.
I'm sorry.
What the hell is that?
That is Troy Aikman taking a shot at your Indiana Hoosiers.
A Peyton Hendershot shot, to be exact.
Oh,
well, you
man.
know why Joe Buck said that?
Because he's a Hoosier.
Well, he's like half a Hoosier. Joe Buck didn't graduate. Which, I mean, you don't have to graduate college to go on to be a massive success. You can drop out. You can, blaze your own trail. But yeah, Joe Buck was on campus for a couple of years, came to talk to one of my classes. He said, yeah, my dad did the Cardinals game. So I just kind of walked into the booth. Here to party for a couple of years. My professor was shocked. Pissed.
I didn't become successful because of this place. It was my dad.
Yeah, Sage Steele of ESPN was my commencement speaker. There's a lot of proud Hoosiers in the sports media nationwide.
That was quite a shot there. Doesn't take much.
Peyton Hendershot. Indiana, I'm told, lost to Cincinnati like dramatically this weekend after starting the season 3-0.
The score didn't look very close.
Well, that's what I said. They lost dramatically.
Okay. Well, you say dramatically, I'm thinking like overtime, fourth quarter.
Oh no. Well, you're an SEC fan. Your difference. Your definition of drama is different than mine. No, drama just by nature of they got smoked. So, yes, Troy Aikman and the mighty UCLA Bruins are not in it. When UCLA, by the way, member institutions, UCLA and Indiana, a Big Ten rivalry in the ESPN Monday night booth between Troy and Joe Buck. Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, see, here's the thing about the new Monday Night Football booth, even though it's not a new football booth. They just took it from Fox in exchange for, Fox is going to pay Tom Brady whenever, $37.5 million a year to do games. It is good enough now to keep me on ESPN during the Monday night game. Because I just like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. I enjoy their rhythm together. I think they're working with new people, obviously, at ESPN as opposed to Fox. But I thought they are enough to keep me engaged. Whereas Peyton and Eli talking over Jimmy Johnson because there's a delay and Jimmy Johnson is trying to plug his book and Peyton wants to talk about, the going into the Hall of Fame or something like that. It's enough to keep me off the Manning cast for how much better the booth now is. Respectfully, because I really like Steve Levy and Louis Riddick and Brian Greasy. I thought they were fine. It's just there wasn't a lot about it to keep me engaged, other than I really valued Louis Riddick's analysis in particular while these games are taking place.
It was a very somber Manning cast, by the way, yesterday. Like, it was a funeral the entire fourth quarter. I had never heard that much silence between the two. You could tell how much Eli is affected by watching the Giants.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I actually appreciated it. Like, he has a very real emotional investment into the Giants, and Peyton was almost like tiptoeing around some things because he knows how much it affects Eli.
Andrew says the Manning cast is trash and will be until they get them all in one room. Too many technical errors. That's the whole reason the Manning cast exists, because they don't want to be Peyton and Eli don't want to travel. They just want to hang out and do games from their basements and, bring their friends on terrible Zoom connections and things like that. Philip in Nashville is next.
Hey, Buck.
Hey,
First time caller. In the wake of all this Caleb Farley not playing except for one play on Sunday, it was really hard not to see how effective and strong Adoree Jackson looked like last night, and really wishing we still had him, and specifically that Adoree Jackson, on our team.
Well, he was never that Adoree Jackson on your team.
Hindsight.
For what it's worth. I think that's just, you have the results in one hand. So I get why that makes you feel that way.
It's frustrating.
Sure. Well, Jack Conklin. Jack Conklin is another example of that. Jack has played really, really well as a Cleveland Brown. And he was not that during the early part of his career with the Titans. His all-pro year was, I thought, a bit of, I'm trying to think of how to say this respectfully. He got way more help than they gave him credit for by nature of what the scheme was around Jack Conklin and how much help a rookie right tackle needed that wasn't very good in pass protection. Adoree Jackson was not that here ever. So at the time when they picked up his fifth-year option and then cut him afterwards because they were like, and the rule is now that they can no longer do that, any team, because that's not necessarily fair to the player.
And he's talked about not quite gelling with Mike Vrabel, so you don't know that Adoree Jackson would have looked like that today.
Well, and they were pissed at him because they thought he was ready to go by week 6 of that season, and he didn't end up playing until like December against the Packers. So, results in hand. Polls.
I don't know who you are, but I know what it's time for. A poll update on the Buck Rising Show. Here's a young man with a very particular set of skills. With the final numbers, here's Buck Rising Show correspondent and producer, Lucas Panzica.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford. You can custom order any new Ford from Two Rivers. They deliver it straight to you right when it's manufactured.
I just got a text that said Adoree Jackson also has a $19 million cap charge this year. So and keep that in mind as far as, the roster construction and what you would have to pay to keep Adoree.
Who are the winners of the weekend? Eldon says Jacksonville. Rick Stockstill's agent. The Vols, people that insisted Derrick Henry is still alive. Double D and Teron Davenport's fashion game.
Teron is... It pisses me off. He's getting better. He's getting stronger. his fashion choice, his fashion sense at the games. It's really driving me crazy. It's also going to make me spend a lot more money to try and keep pace. And even when I know every Sunday I'm going to lose. Every Sunday.
And Double D, the reference to Dennis Daly, who actually had a nice game against the Raiders.
Okay. How about that? Lots of winners of the sports weekend.
Titans for Life says the entire state of Tennessee, minus Vandy in parentheses, wins across the board.
Yeah, minus Vandy, as is oftentimes the case. Titans, Vols, MTSU. We had Rick Stockstill on earlier. If you missed that interview or any of the other conversations that we have on the show, check out the podcast. Very simple. In your favorite podcast app, just search The Buck Rising Show.
Losers of the weekend. Mahogany says the Chargers. Injuries starting to pile up. Keenan Allen looks like he will be set to come back soon, but they lose Rashawn Slater for the season. You
want to talk about a team that's dealing with injuries and no team speed? Look at the Chargers, man. Their quarterback situation is better, but not if, he's working through this rib issue. He seems to still need significant medical attention to be able to get up and play on Sundays. Like I said, there are tons of teams dealing with injuries right now, but the Titans, I think there's a lot of other issues that we are more hyper-focused on as opposed to looking at everybody else around the league having similar issues.
Who is the third best team in the SEC now? Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, or A&M? 74% say the Vols, 15% say the Cats, 7% the Hogs, 4% the Aggies.
It's probably still Arkansas, but Tennessee's right there, man. I really
don't
do.
know.
Yeah, you don't know.
What is the
you
biggest...
were telling me the preseason polls don't matter, and then telling me that things will be set right on the next voting of the AP poll. Get out of here.
What is the biggest overreaction in the NFL after 3 weeks? Kenneth says that Cooper Rush is better than Dak Prescott.
Well, that's not what Jerry said. But
Lawn Gnome says Dolphins and Eagles hype.
No, those are real. Dolphins and Eagles hype I'll accept because those two... The Eagles turned it around very quickly, by the way, after winning a Super Bowl not that long ago.
Biggest difference between the Titans' first and second half on offense. Karen says they scored multiple touchdowns in the first and moved the ball well and then fell asleep in the second. Elijah says a couple mistakes here and there that killed drives. Tannehill interception, the Burks incompletion.
And you couple that with a lack of aggression in the play selection in the second half. They played to keep the lead. And almost by nature of Terrence Mitchell lost that lead.
And 87% of voters say Derrick Henry does need more targets in the passing game moving forward.
I don't know, but I think it's a tool. You're looking for counterpunches. You're looking for Plan B if the offensive line can't run block that way in every game. And it looks like Derrick as a viable passing option or something that teams don't necessarily game plan for is something that they can use.
Those are the polls.
All right, that's the show. Blaine and Mickey, you're next.